I'm hoping that Tactic 8 is an easy one for you, for me. Some of these chapters I get riled up about. You got a few of them coming up. You're going to hear me get pretty passionate about these. I'm hoping that this one is almost a common sense. But I will say it's changed since I originally was in the business. I think I originally got into the mortgage business and real estate business back in 1997. And we had our cameras and we would do our own staging. And most, not all, but a lot of the agents I talk to these days, it's almost common sense to them that they're going to pay someone to do professional staging. They're going to pay someone to do professional photography because their listings are being compared so quickly, instantly online versus we used to have when I started, we print out catalogs for the MLS book. And in that MLS book, catalog, whatever you want to call it, we weren't going to have 20, 30, 40 gorgeous color photos. So quite frankly, we weren't worried about professional photography at the level that we are today. Today, there's a lot of websites that are going to allow for dozens, and I mean literally dozens of photographs to be uploaded. So it's not just the professional photography, but it's what's in the picture. So now we want it staged properly. So I'm not saying it's a blanket statement that everybody is paying for staging and everybody is paying for professional photography, but I will say this is a blanket statement. You need to make sure that even if you're not paying for professional photography, you're not paying for staging, the quality of how you're presenting that seller's product, their home, better be at that level. That's non-negotiable. That is absolutely non-negotiable. Otherwise, they deserve better than you. Okay? They deserve better. There are other agents out there that will provide them with staging, that will provide them with professional photography. If you're not going to do that, it doesn't matter as far as whether it came out of your pocket or not. It's for the customer. It is what is the quality that they are getting. So that part, I'm just going to say in this chapter, they don't really say that and they don't deal with that topic in this chapter. I wanted to point that out first and foremost. If staging and professional photography is a thing in your market, great. If you're not doing it, you do not get a pass just because your market doesn't do it. As far as quality, your customer deserves the best quality that is available out there. That's my opinion. Okay, so let's go through what does this chapter share with you. So there's a couple key points. Number one, they kind of talk about the fact that staging truly matters. Yeah, absolutely. They don't say it in those words, but in multiple chapters, multiple pages, if I kind of take a summary, staging absolutely matters, and I think that kind of lines up with what I just mentioned. I'm going to just read off a couple of the notes that I had taken while I was going through this chapter. Some agents are truly qualified to do this on their own, while others are not. This is, you've heard me in other chapters use the phrase, self-awareness is my freaking superpower, okay? This is where self-awareness comes in. You've got to be honest with yourself. Some of you feel that you're great at staging, okay? I would say do your own staging. If you really believe with all of your heart that you're all that and if you're just all that on staging, I would still say do 3 on your own, do 3 homes that actually you pay for staging. It's part of your business expense. Just pay for it. Now, get the professional photography on both of those, and actually, without letting your peers know, have them go through them and have them honestly judge the staging in each of those. You know what the results are. Have them judge what they think of the staging for the 3 that you didn't do and the 3 that you paid for. If in any way, shape, or form it even leans a little bit towards a professional staging, you're not all that you thought you were, okay? Just that self-awareness. None of this is brought up in this chapter. They talk about staging, the importance, but they don't talk about you judging yourself. And then what would be the technique? Like, how would I even judge myself? Do I just make a personal opinion whether I'm that good or not? I'm telling you right now, do your homework. If you're supposed to be paying for professional staging anyways because you're not that great at it, then go ahead, say you're great at it, and at least pay for 3 of them so you can get an honest answer. I'm just telling you right now, invest the money to make sure you're as good as you think you are. Okay, so that's one note that I put in here. I said put in the work. Know how every other home that has been and currently is on the market has and is staged. Do your homework and always be previewing homes in the marketing you are claiming to be a professional in. And I'm going to emphasize the word that you are claiming to be a professional in. A true professional is going to stay on top of their market. Part of staying on the market as an active agent, okay? As an active agent. If you're going to go ahead and list someone's home, assume you're an active agent. Part of the work of being an active agent is knowing what these other homes look like on the inside. And I'm not just talking about through the photos that are on the MLS, okay? Do you have it time blocked every week? And I mean literally every week. Do you have it time blocked to go preview the properties, the new properties that are on the market? The reason why I say every week, because a lot of markets, those homes aren't even on the market for a full week. Every week. If there is a market that you want to become the market expert in, if you want to be the market expert, which we're going to hit in a few other chapters here, if you want to be the market expert, how many of those homes that have gone on the market in that market have you actually gone through? How many of them have you previewed? How many of the homes in the last 12 months that have gone on the market and sold, how many of those have you actually been through? Legitimately. Then the next thing is those that are currently on the market today when this person wants to list, how many of those have you been in? The answer should be 100%. Be willing to do the work. Know how they're being staged. Know what your competition looks like. Okay? So next thing that I put on there. So putting in the work is very, very important. And they say that in some terms in here, but they don't really call it out. So I just want to call it out too. Financial strategies that matter. They don't really hit this in this, but I want to bring it up as well. Again, this course is not about just reading these chapters to you and making sure that you can read these on your own. You can get the audio book, but I want to tell you what things that I feel that maybe could have been hit a little bit harder or something that was hit well and I want to pull out. So this is one that they don't really talk about, and that's that financial strategies matter. What do I mean by that? You need to have a business plan. Okay? You are not first and foremost a real estate agent. You are first and foremost, as you've heard me say other times, you are first and foremost a business owner. And as a business owner, you need to have a business plan. And as a business plan, you need to have a financial plan. So part of that financial plan is knowing you're going, when you sell a home, two things I really want to make sure we point out here that should just be obvious. Number one, if you help a seller sell their home, you're going to make some money. But if you want to get listings, it's going to cost you money. Listings are not free, okay? At least in my world, they're not free. I think the seller deserves better than what you can get them for free, okay? Even a sign in the yard isn't free, okay? But there are some areas that don't even allow signs. There's some townhome complexes, it's condos, everything else that don't allow signs, but it still shouldn't be free. There is cost of marketing, there is cost of photography, there is cost of staging. There's a lot of things that you could do. You might have a big enough team that you have staff, so there's cost of your overhead of your staff that is putting all of these listing materials together. And I can go on and on and on and on, but the marketing afterwards and everything else like that. So you have to have a business financial strategy. What does that got to do with staging? So think about this, is if you know how much you make, take your annual and take all the homes that you sold and figure out what your average commission is, what your average sales price is, what your average percentages are. Then start figuring out what your average overhead is. I can go through all these numbers, but you get the basic idea. You should know what you're making on an average per property and what you are spending per property. Part of that spend is going to be photography and staging. So ask yourself am I in a position that I'm happy with? Okay. Do I want to offer my customers more? If I do that, it's going to cut into your profit. Are you happy with the average sales price? Now myself, I remember that I think it was maybe the first year and a half. I don't remember the exact timeline, but year and a half, I kind of looked at what my average sales price was. And I was never that impressed with higher priced homes as far as they didn't intimidate me to walk in. And I'm like, that's interesting. I could double or triple my income if I just went and started working with people that had more expensive homes. And that didn't seem to bother me, where someone walking into a $250,000 home, one agent is comfortable, and you will have them walk into a $650,000 and somehow they're intimidated by that. That just didn't hit me. So think about, do you want to change your market? Do you want to change the areas that you're marketing to? Do you want to change the average sales price of your home? Because it will change your margins. Yes, I'm talking about financing and finances due to the fact that staging, take it into consideration that it is one of your expenses. It just is, okay? Or I hope it is for you. I hope your customer gets that out of you, but that's my personal opinion on that. So the next thing is, buyer's perception is the only reality that matters, okay? Staging is never about the seller. It's always about the buyer. They hit that, and I'm really proud of them for not only just them hitting that in this chapter, but how many different ways and different times that they really promote the fact that when you are going to sell your home, as soon as you decide to sell your home, it's really, my terminology, not theirs, it's not about you anymore, okay? Now, you have to know that that's true. You have to help the seller to understand that, but there's also an art and a skill to learning. How do I communicate that? With leading with compassion, okay? So how do you say it in a way that is fully informed by compassion? So I want to bring up that word compassion, because there are going to be messages that you have to convey to them when you tell them, hey, let's look at I've gone through every property that's been on the market in a year. I've gone through every single property that would be of competition to you in this area currently that's on the market. I've literally gone through every single one of them. And let me just tell you how we're comparing as far as staging, as far as the wallpaper. I know you love it, but geez Louise, it's from 1970. If that's your delivery, maybe you've got a good relationship with them and you can do that, okay? But how do you lead with compassion to go through and essentially tear their home apart and tell them what they need to change? This is personal to them, okay? So they do talk about in here, it's no longer about them. That is true, 100% true. The buyer's perception is reality. But they just barely touch on, and I want to point it out because it's a good point, and I think it's a crucial point in my opinion, is yes, you have to share this information with them. Yes, you have to educate them, but how you do it matters. Absolutely. Lead with compassion. And by the way, to best communicate this to them, it's a learned skill. Okay? So never stop trying to get better at it and trying to be aware of how to speak with someone while leading with compassion. Okay? So that is one thing that they kind of touch on, and I really wanted to stress that. Updates do not necessarily mean more money, okay? Most times the truth is that the lack of updates equates to them netting less money, not selling it at all. So let me clarify that. I'm going to have, say, a seller say, hey, we just put in new windows. Hey, we just put in a new roof. Hey, we just updated our appliances. And because of that, they think of how much money that they spent and they assume they're going to get more money. I want to change that thought process, and I would encourage you to help your sellers change their thought process as well. The fact is it is assumed, if you have a home that's 60 years old, it's assumed that you've done a good job maintaining it. It's assumed that it doesn't have an old leaky roof. It's assumed that this isn't falling apart. It's assumed that you've kept it up to market standards, that you have well maintained the home. So it's not that 3 weeks ago, it had a piece of garbage roof that leaked, and now you've replaced it, so it's really increased the price of the home. No, it's supposed to have a good roof. It's supposed to have solid foundation. It's supposed to have what is expected of a home that's been well maintained. It's when you don't have those things, that's why you're not going to get the market price. Okay? So think about it from that point of view and help them to see that there may be some things that we may want to invest in, they may want to invest in before it actually goes live on the market. Not because those things will always get them more money. Two things that they kind of mention in here. It actually, if they don't do those things, they may actually get less money. It's not about getting more. They may actually get less money. It may actually take longer to sell, which again may equate to them getting less money. And then the worst case scenario, which we know is a reality. If they don't update these things and get them to standards, it may not sell slow. It may not sell low. It might not sell at all. it may not sell at all compared to what else is in the market. Now, we need to be able to learn how to communicate that to them, leading with compassion. So I love that they point those things out there. Okay, and then last couple things that they mention here is, I'm going to read a quote, and I really think that this is a great quote. You probably can find similar quotes, but I'm going to read the one right from this book. Real stats have shown that in a review of 2,800 properties in 8 cities, found that staged homes on average sold in half the time that non-staged homes did. The sellers with staged homes ended up with 6.3% more than their asking price on the average. Now, when you give a stat like that, 6.3% more than the asking price, now I'm quoting that right from the book. I'm assuming that they meant to say it that way and not 6.3% more than the homes that weren't staged. They're talking about 6.3% more than asking price. So they were asking this, so they're getting over asking price. So that you have to think about maybe also part of the market when things start selling over asking price. But the point that they're trying to make is that part of what they're equating that to is the staging. And I think there are plenty of different stats based on what your current market is that will probably help you get that point across. And then the last thing I'm just going to mention is they do talk about the 3 Ps and the 2 Fs. I won't go into all of that, but they do do a pretty good job talking about that. It's an easy way to communicate to your clients that, the 3 Ps, we want to talk about plantings, we want to talk about paint, we want to talk about pictures, then we want to talk about fixtures and furnishings. It's an easy way to say that this is kind of a standard way for us to start this conversation, and it allows you to start getting into the conversation. You may be dying to bring up other things that you think are just eyesores. Don't you want to kind of get that conversation started so we're already in that mode, that those things become a little easier to talk about down the road. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I think it's almost, for me anyways, it seems like a very common sense chapter, but I can imagine that there are some agents go, I don't need to be paying for staging. Are you kidding me? I don't need professional staging. That's ridiculous. I've been helping my clients forever and it works just great. Okay, why don't you test that theory? Literally, test that theory. Next 3 properties, pay for it. The next 3, don't pay for it. Then go ahead and grab, I don't care, 3, a half a dozen people in your brokerage, and do a meeting with them and actually try to run a test if which ones they felt were staged the best and all those other types of things. If it is an absolute slam dunk that they're choosing yours over the ones that were staged, I'm telling you right now, you may not be all that. Okay, hope that helps you guys. Let's move on to tactic number 9. And what is that? Creating urgency and overcoming buyer's reluctance. This one kind of gets under my skin a little bit, and so does the next one. So you might hear a little passion out of me in those. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this one. Take care.